everyone, Ernie Tech here, and I am working with CMS, the Conversational Monitor System, today as part of the VM370 Community Edition that I was gifted graciously. And one of the things that I had to do was deal with an issue where I was having an X-wait state kept popping up and locking up the keyboard. No matter what I did, I couldn't solve this problem. I would have to resort to going to Hercules and killing it from there and starting again, which was not optimal. Did some research, found this solution, I think in a Reddit subgroup. This is the session for my WC32 emulator that lets me use the VM370 settings. And this here is a command line argument that you put in there, and it did the job for the most part. About 80% of the time it doesn't happen. 20% of the time I still get a lockup, but yeah. Maybe someone can tell me exactly why this is happening, but for the most part, that was the solution. All right, couple of things. I'm already logged in. Log in as user, CMS user, the password CMS user. Here we are, right at the ready prompt. One of my subscribers, Jim Williams, in a previous video, mentioned something interesting, and that is how to know and control your pass-through between CMS and CP. And what we mean by that is that if I put in a command that CMS is unaware of, it'll automatically pass through to the control program to see if it wants to handle it. But that's not always the case. You can turn that off. So there's a couple little things here, kind of fun to see. So if I typed in set IM PCP off, and I typed in a command that CMS didn't understand, it would just say, I don't know what this is. If I change that toggle IM PCP to on, and I typed in that command, it passes it right over to CP, and then CP says, well, here's my response, so I know what to do with that. I didn't know that. That was actually pretty cool. And how do you switch between the two? Well, there's a couple of ways. So here we are in the ready prompt. If I just type in CP, and you look over here, it says, well, CP's waiting for you to give it a command. Okay, and if I type in the letter B, then I switch back over again to CMS, and you get this running command. Or, if I want to, I can use the Alt PA1, which is Alt 1 on my keyboard, and it pops between the CP read and the virtual machine read. If you see more, you hit Alt C, takes it back over, and you can continue to fool around there. So right now I want to be in VM read, because that's exactly where CMS wants me to be. All right. I always say that if you're playing around with something new, and if it has a help facility, something that's useful, then you should just try and see what it consists of. If I type in help, it's going to pop me into a very neat little help facility, which is full screen, so you can move your cursor around using your arrow keys. Now, something I noticed about this, and again, I take the beginner mindset, because I truly am. I am a beginner with everything with this stuff. Even if I've been playing with it for a couple years, which on and off, I'm still a beginner, because you guys are pros. For the most part, you guys know what you're doing, and I'm trying to figure it out. There's not a lot of us out there, by the way. The MECAFF tools, which are a sort of integrated set of tools that let you edit and look at files more robustly. They work together in sort of a little nice little package. It says that it has a feature called FS Help, but when I type in FS Help, I don't get anything. I get nothing. It says I don't know what to do with this. If I type in just help, then I get this page, which is a color rendition, which means that it's the 3279 Model 2. So I have a suspicion that help itself is no longer FS Help. It's just help. And then it takes you right into what MECAFF interprets the help files as. Does that make any sense? So I think this is MECAFF interpreting the help facility. All right. Let's look and see, at least for the most part, what CMS can do. I just tap on that, takes me right in. Same thing you're accustomed to in other operating systems, like Music SP, where you have your function keys. So 7 and 8 go forward and backward, and F3 get you out, and so on. So here's a list of CM commands. There's more. You press F8, you go to the next set, you press F7. Easy stuff, nothing to it. Let's go over to FS list, or F list, which is a file list. Let's use that. So it says, all right, this is going to list all the files that match a certain criteria, the file name, the file type, whatever the case is. Makes total sense. Let's pop out of here. So that's a standard thing. Let's pop out of the help. Let's try that command. I'm leading somewhere with this. If I type in flist, I get a pretty ectoplasm green rendition of the files that are available to me. Me as, logged in as CMS user. And I can go forward and backwards, so I can go to the next page and the previous page. It tells me the file name, the file type, the mode, the record length, the format, the usual stuff. And there's nothing wrong with that, and you can edit it to a certain degree, but it's not very helpful, so that's kind of limited. But the MECAFF tools add on to this. It makes it a lot more easy, a lot easier. A lot more easy? Yes, a lot easier. So let me hop out of this, and let me type in xlist. Now we get something which looks kind of akin to what we saw with the help facility, where you're seeing the colors rather than the monochrome of the particular console or particular emulator that we're using. And more importantly, it's a full screen environment, so I can move this thing around and pick something that I want to look at. For instance, let's say I want to look at cars COBOL. All I have to do there is just, I can do two things. I can either look at it, view it, or I can edit it. Let's just view it for now. So F12, PF12, takes you into the environment, says, all right, this is what it looks like. A couple of F8s take you down and keep on going. And if you're a COBOL programmer, this all looks nice and familiar. And if you're not, well, it's all gobbledygook. But that's just to see it. But what if I want to edit it? Well, now I can get into this through this one MECAFF tool. So it's sort of a nice little package of tools all put together that you can go and, have your way with the files for the most part. I don't know whether you can copy them and rename them and do anything like that outside of the CMS command environment, but you can definitely edit them and look at them. So let's have a look at this here. So if I go to PF2, then it pops me into the editor environment, which is very cool for a couple of reasons. One is that it's using the prefix type of editing command environment, and it lets you go all over the screen. I tried to use the regular old edit, and I just gave up. So let's say I want to put in a line. Just put in I right there, and she pops in a line. If I want to take a line out, not a problem. I can delete a line. And then I can, have my way with the file depending upon what the different commands, what prefix commands are available. And I think it's pretty much the same kind of stuff you would see if you were editing a file in MVS. So you can, set a line to the current line, marks it, insert a number of lines. Let's see if I put in I3. Yep, get 3 additional lines. Great stuff. Now, if I don't want to save this, all I have to do here is then just go F3, but it's going to complain, which it should. It says the file is modified. Use QQ to leave file without changes. Kind of reminds me of VI in Linux. QQ, and I'm back out again. So you get a nice view of your file system. You get more than you would under FList. You have the CMS label, you have the time blocks format, all that stuff, where it's living in the mini disk world, all that kind of stuff. You get to view it, you get to edit it, do other things within the MECAFF environment that are not fully baked, or let's just say more rudimentary in CMS. Again, all the different PF keys, all the different function keys work the same way, I think for the most part, across the IBM line. So that's convenient. Very complicated, but the manual's only 45 pages long, so it's not that bad. All right, let me pop out of here and just poke around a little bit on one or two other things. All right, we're back in again. One thing I didn't realize, and I learned the hard way just by wondering what to do, is that when you see more down here, if I type in list file, if you see more down here, what do? If you're a newbie like I am to this environment, I kind of knew, but I didn't know what to do at first. Like the enter key didn't do much. Well, then you have to press Alt-C. Then it takes you down. And as far as you are concerned, running means it's ready to hear from you. You can go ahead and put anything you want in there. If you want to go and talk to CP, you just press the Alt F1, takes you over to CP read. If you want to go back over to your particular virtual machine, you go right back over to it. There was a couple of other interesting commands that I thought. For instance, if I type in FSQRY, it's reminding me what my terminal environment is. So the characteristics of my particular terminal was 3279 Model 2. Yes, colors, extended highlights, max screen size, 80 columns by 24. As I read this thing, if the maximum columns, if a line in some file exceeds 80 columns in the editor, the XList editor EE, it'll wrap around to the next line. I can't simulate that because I don't know which files do that. So there are ways to make it wider, but this I think is the stock way that it was back in the day. Who knows? Okay, so that is kind of how MECAFF fits into the program. Obviously, that's a really shallow dive. It's 45 pages long of instructions, but it's very, very detailed. And again, as I said, if you're playing around this environment, this is your friend. This is where you want to be. Yeah, I could sit here for hours. In fact, I have sat here for hours, just going in and seeing, what I could see, what looks, what's new, what's this, what's that. So, yeah, help is always the place you want to go to, no matter what operating system you're playing around in. Alrighty. That was my primary mission today, to show you where I was at in the learning process of CMS inside of VM370 as a virtual machine under CP, how you get from one environment to the other. Things that I haven't touched on, which I want to, is how to change your profile exec, I think, then how to modify user direct, how to do other things that are more detailed and change the environment and the way things run. But for now, I think this is quite a bit, at least for my little brain. Alrighty, listen, thanks a lot for subscribing. If you haven't, please do. Again, thanks for all the help from the people who have been kind enough to provide me with support. And again, make sure that you hop on to Moshix's forum 3270. That is where I think all of us want to hang out. And I find it a great resource. He's really done a great job with that. All right, thanks again, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye for now.